It all began on a deep March night. The air was filled with oppressive silence, as if nature itself was holding its breath before something immense. Somewhere in the forests of the Kursk region, hidden from eyes and satellites, a new artillery position emerged. Quietly, without noise or dust, those arrived whom no one expected to see in this conflict: North Korean troops, and with them heavy artillery capable of shifting the balance on the battlefield. Less than 72 hours ago, a train entered deep into Russia via the Valuiki Railway. Its wagons bore no markings. From them emerged soldiers, thousands of North Korean servicemen. They moved like clockwork, wordless, seamless, with full dedication. Alongside them, tracked platforms carrying heavy guns. Among them, the infamous IM-1978 Koksan. This is not just artillery. It is a symbol of the North Korean doctrine of intimidation. Gigantic self-propelled guns of 170 millimeters caliber created in the late 1970s. Designed to strike far beyond the front line, targeting warehouses, command centers, and reserves. The Russian command anticipated these systems would allow them to seize the initiative. 3 guns had already been deployed to positions in the forested area near Kursk. They were arranged in a triangular formation, a typical setup to improve battery survivability. The location was chosen deliberately: dense forest, distance from the front line, visual protection from satellites. They felt safe here. But in war, safety is an illusion. Early in the morning at 4:19, a group of Ukrainian reconnaissance drones took off from a forward base near the city of Sumy. Among them, the Lelika 100 drone. Its task was crystal clear: locate freshly deployed artillery positions, confirm coordinates, and keep the target in visual lock, and it succeeded. The drone detected a newly established firing position on the edge of the forest. Under tarps and camouflage nets, 3 artillery units were concealed. The guns were combat-ready, barrels pointed southwest. About 15 personnel were engaged in setup. They didn't know that at that very moment they were already being tracked. Their position, marked, data transmitted, decision made. At first glance, they seemed protected: camouflage, anti-drone nets, shielding panels. But behind this facade lay a fatal vulnerability. There was no radar coverage, no air defense systems, no Panzers, no Tors, not a single system capable of detecting and repelling an air attack. And that meant only one thing: if the coordinates reached the right hands, a strike would be unavoidable. At 4:22, the Lelika 100 drone operator confirmed visual contact. The coordinates were immediately encrypted and transmitted to the Ukrainian artillery center. Officers reviewed the data. The picture was clear: exposed targets, no air defenses, stationary positions, a perfect target. The decision was made to use the M30A1, a guided shell carrying 182,000 tungsten fragments. This weapon was specifically designed to hit targets that are camouflaged but not defended. In just a few minutes, retribution will strike the forest near Kursk: precise, destructive, inevitable. 4:25 in the morning. Somewhere deep in the woods near the city of Sumy, inside a classified shelter, a launch crew from the 27th Artillery Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine was already in position. The mobile launcher M-142 HIMARS exited standby mode. The team was in place: fire crew, operators, communications officer. Everything happened in complete silence, without commands or shouting. Everyone knew their role. The launch order was transmitted via an ultra-high frequency, secure channel with variable frequency. a signal impossible to intercept or jam, even with powerful Russian electronic warfare systems. The launcher turned northeast, at azimuth 68 degrees, elevation angle 53 degrees, for a steep, nearly vertical trajectory. Weather conditions were ideal. Air temperature, around 2 degrees Celsius. Wind, southeast, 4 meters per second. For such an artillery system, these were almost perfect conditions. The Lelika 100 drone kept hovering above the target area, transmitting updated coordinates every 2 seconds. The enemy had no clue that in mere seconds, hell would rain down on them. 4, 26, and 15 seconds, the first launch. The rocket ripped off the guide rail with a muffled thump. Within 3 seconds, it had reached a speed of over 2,700 kilometers per hour. Its trajectory was ballistic, high, like an artillery shell, but guided by a military-grade global positioning system. Maximum flight altitude over 21,000 meters. Then, a steep dive. This pattern minimizes interception chances. Russian radars like Podlet K-1 or 35Z6M don't react quickly enough. Moreover, the coordinates are constantly corrected by the navigator drone, flying so low and with such a minimal radar signature that it could be mistaken for a bird. 35 seconds after launch, at 4:26 and 50 seconds, the warhead hit the target. It exploded mid-air, directly over the central position of the battery. A flash lit up the sky, barely visible from the ground, but the result was devastating. 182,000 metal fragments, each the size of a fingernail, traveling at hypersonic speed, like a giant mower, tearing through everything in a 100-meter radius. The first hit landed on an ammunition truck. The blast scattered munitions crates, tossing them 10 meters into the air. One of the M1978 Koksan artillery units was completely destroyed. The turret twisted away from the impact, the hull was ripped from its supports, the barrel bent. 7 people were killed instantly. 17 seconds later, the second strike. The second rocket approached from the southeast and detonated slightly off the western position. Although the hit wasn't perfectly centered, it was more than sufficient. One fragment pierced the shell-loading mechanism, another shattered the sight. The gun was blinded and rendered useless. The targeting system was destroyed, shells scattered across the ground. One crew member outside was killed instantly. Another, seriously wounded, tried to hide in a trench. His fate remains unknown. The third and final strike occurred at 4:27 and 50 seconds. The rocket hit a supply truck parked near the third installation. The explosion literally tore it in half. The artillery piece was overturned, its barrel damaged, and the loading mechanism destroyed. 5 servicemen were killed instantly. One attempted to flee into the forest but was hit in the leg. A fragment pierced the muscle. He fell and did not move again. The entire operation took just over 90 seconds, less than 2 minutes, and the entire battery was wiped out. 3 M1978 Koksan installations, several trucks, and more than a dozen trained specialists, all were eliminated. The cost for Ukraine: 3 high-precision shells, approximately $500,000. The cost for Russia and North Korea: over $10 million in equipment alone, not including human losses. In the first minutes after the strike, the Russian command did not understand what had happened. Contact with the battery was suddenly lost. Operators at the Western Command Post near Kursk assumed a technical malfunction, signal loss, or possible equipment failure. But just minutes later, the first images arrived at headquarters, transmitted by Ukrainian drones in real time. What appeared on screen was hell. 3 artillery positions scorched to the ground, trucks destroyed, guns either overturned or shattered, no sign of life. Everything was smoke, craters, and wreckage. The Russian command urgently dispatched a rapid response group and Orlan-10 drones to the location. But by the time they arrived, the HIMARS launcher was long gone. It had left in less than 2 minutes after the final shot, exactly as prescribed by the shoot and scoot doctrine. Its speed, mobility, and stealth made it nearly untouchable. This was already the third such incident in the past 2 weeks. North Korean M-1978 Koksan systems, recently brought into Russia as part of new units, were being destroyed immediately after deployment, without firing a single shot. The consequences were immediate. The deployment of North Korean long-range artillery in the Kursk region was halted. Generals on the ground could no longer guarantee their safety, and without that, there was no point in their presence at the front. It is important to understand here. North Korea is a country that has relied for decades on massed artillery. Its military philosophy is built on intimidation through firepower. But in this conflict, on this battlefield against precision weapons and modern reconnaissance, all of it becomes nothing more than a target. Yes, officially, Moscow and Pyongyang signed an agreement. More than 15,000 North Korean servicemen arrived in Russia, with artillery, ammunition, and equipment. It was supposed to shift the balance, but in reality, it became just another victim of Ukrainian precision. And this is where the question arises. If such strikes are repeated regularly, if expensive systems are destroyed in a matter of minutes, if the enemy cannot protect them, then what can actually change the game? The answer seems already obvious. This conflict has entered a phase where numbers and equipment alone are no longer decisive. Victory goes to the one who sees first, shoots more accurately, and disappears before anyone can aim back. This is exactly how Ukrainian forces operate in this episode, and this is precisely why such operations become not just successful, but exemplary. And to the viewers who have watched this far, I ask, can Russia maintain the initiative relying on outdated artillery platforms if every new echelon becomes merely an easy target? Or is the era of massive artillery already a part of history that can no longer be rewritten?